Hi, this is TapCat, and if you watched yesterday's episode, part 13 of the series, then you know we had a little bit of a rough streak as far as how the RNG treated us. So I wanted to do something a little bit similar to what we did after episode 3, but this will be different. So what I want to do is go through the numbers really quickly for how we actually performed during the episode. But then, more importantly, I want to spend some time talking about how we can try to prevent these kind of streaks from happening in the first place. But if that fails, what do you do to try and, deal with the fact that it has happened? Before I forget, I do want to thank another YouTuber reached out to me and offered to help with some of the statistical analysis, and I gratefully accepted that help. So I just want to say thank you to Sam. His channel is called Bad Boy of Science, if you're interested in checking that out. But thanks to him for helping me out with some of these numbers. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Caldwell first. So he was our sharpshooter on the mission. He only took 5 shots and he hit 3 of them for a 60% success rate. His 2 misses were 98% and 86%. So, those were pretty darn good shots. But his overall average chance to hit was roughly 91%. The probability of him doing that poorly or worse was just 6.6%. But Caldwell looked like a superstar next to poor Merriman. He took 9 shots and hit 5 for a 56% success rate. Among his misses were an 89 and a 97, which is pretty brutal. His overall chance to hit, again, was right around 91%. So 56 versus 91, that's really ugly. And Sam tells me that the probability of an outcome that poor is just 0.5%. So poor Merriman kind of had a mission for the ages, but just, in the opposite direction of what you're looking for. The overall mission was nowhere near that level of bad because our other soldiers actually were doing pretty well. So we hit 29 out of 37 shots for a 78% success rate. And our overall chance to hit would round up to 87%. So the probability of an outcome that poor is 13%, which is not great, but compared to 0.5%, it's phenomenal. Poor Merriman, you literally would only expect to do that badly once every 200 missions. To be fair, I have played a lot more than 200 missions in XCOM. I am pretty sure this is the worst I've ever had a soldier do. So the way I would like to look at it is, hey, maybe he's due for much better performances. Let's go ahead and have maybe a more productive conversation because RNG happens and it's always going to happen. And sometimes you'll get more hits than you expect and sometimes you'll get less. So what I want to talk about first is how can we mitigate that? First, by trying to get as many hits as possible. So let's talk about some of the basic things. Now, what makes the early game so challenging is that a lot of these aren't available to you until later on. But, one thing you can do is always try to get the best scopes you possibly can. And you want to equip that on certain classes, especially like your sharpshooters and grenadiers. Your specialists need it too. It's just usually you're not leaning on them quite as heavily to do, your big damage. You really want to try to prioritize getting the perception PCS for as many of your guys as possible. And again, personally, I would prioritize sharpshooters and grenadiers.
That was good.
Your goal is to get at or as close to 100% as you possibly can. You will cut out a lot of misses. Forget RNG that's worse than predicted. Even when it comes out like predicted, you would like that predicted number to be as high as possible. One really basic thing you can do from the beginning of the campaign is firing from a higher elevation anytime you get the chance. You get a 20% aim bonus. That is huge. And that is why you see me in mission after mission doing my best to take the high ground, because I want that 20%. Another thing you can do from the beginning of the campaign is use flanking. If you can either get around the enemy's cover or use explosives to destroy enemy cover, getting rid of their, it's going to be either 20 if they're behind half cover or 40% that you're adding to your chance to hit. That is absolutely monstrous. So flanking is pretty huge. Also, this is another thing you can do from the beginning. Know your weapons ranges, the bonuses and penalties. If you have a sharpshooter and you want to use the rifle, being up close is bad. You get an aim penalty for being close. You actually want to be farther back. The other classes don't work that way. Grenadiers, it helps to be close. The Ranger, of all people, you want to be right up on top of the guy, both for your aiming and your crit chance. So, actually, the crit chance will only matter if you have Talon rounds, but for your aiming, it's huge. So, weapon ranges. Also, another thing you can do kind of midway through the campaign, take hollow targeting on your grenadiers and use them first against your highest priority enemies, especially the ones who have significant defense. Archons, gatekeepers, that kind of thing. That's a 15% bonus on everyone's chance to hit after the grenadier. Again, this will make the difference between having an 85% chance and 100. It's really hard to overstate how many extra hits you can get over the course of a campaign that way. If you take the RNG out of it completely by doing all of these things, and it's just 100, 100, 100, 100, you don't have to worry about it. So let's say you've done all those things. The good news is you're going to hit a lot more shots, and the bad news is you're still going to miss sometimes. So how do you deal with that? All right, one thing that I try to do is pick one or two targets that I absolutely need to take out by the end of that turn. So assuming that I don't just have 100% shots all the way around, which, I normally wouldn't, it's impossible for you to have a complete plan of exactly what you're going to do, because you don't have any way of knowing who will hit and who won't. Or even if you do hit, exactly how much damage are you going to do? What you want to do, though, is work out a basic framework for the turn and start working your way through those attacks. Okay, but here's a big key. You always want to try to have a plan A and a plan B. And if plan B doesn't have a 100% chance of success, then see if you can come up with a plan C. And I'm not saying this frivolously or exaggerating. I really mean this. So here's, I guess, an example of what I'm saying. If I'm going to use a soldier to take what I hope is a kill shot, what am I going to do if he misses? What's my backup plan? So maybe another soldier has a grenade and the grenade is lethal in this case. Great, that's guaranteed damage. So I have a foolproof backup plan. Now you could say, well, why would you even take the shot if you have the grenade? Well, maybe that soldier has a good shot on somebody else. It's a lower priority, but I still would like to get that damage in. Or maybe I'm trying to save that grenade for later in the mission. There could be any number of reasons. But the bottom line is, if push comes to shove, I have a way I can take this guy out. An example of plan C could be either another soldier who could take a shot, or if all options fail to do lethal damage, maybe you have a soft option. And by that, I mean a mimic beacon, a flashbang grenade, something that will help you avoid taking damage. If you can't kill this guy, the question is, can you at least distract or weaken him in some way? I like to equip my sharpshooters with venom rounds. And it's not so much about the tiny bit of extra damage that it does, it's that it will reduce the enemy's movement and aim. So it works great with gunslingers, especially because they have the one ability, I think it's called Fanfire, where you can target everybody in his visibility. So it's almost like having another flashbang grenade with you. It's great, you know, it's a very useful ability. So these are just a few examples of some of the soft control. Frost Bomb is another one if you're using alien hunters. Hopefully you get the idea. What I'm getting at is you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket if you can help it. You want to have a plan, you want to have a backup plan, and if necessary, a backup to the backup plan. The more outs you give yourself, the less often you'll leave your soldiers hung out to dry because of a missed shot. If you're not used to approaching the game this way, it'll definitely take some getting used to, but I think you'll find that as you practice it, it will just become second nature after a while. And by the way, your soldiers will spend a lot less time in the hospital. All right, I hope that helps, and I think that's going to do it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope we see you next time.